when KK shows up on the bench, you know he's talking it like he sees it. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. Karanja Kabage, constitutional lawyer, well-accomplished businessman, talking about the post-POTUS trip to Kenya, which no doubt reverberated across the country and across the region. Reverberated is no doubt the word. KK's Twitter handle is at Karanja Kabage. Mine is at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag we're using tonight, KK. KK, I asked you a question before the break. Did Barack Obama essentially endorse Uhuru Kenyatta for another 5 years?
I think it will be a terrible illusion, if not delusion, if HUK were to imagine, dream, or think that he has been endorsed by Barack Obama. It is the Kenyans that will endorse him, and I would persuade anybody who may have imagined that Barack Obama came to endorse UK for the presidency in 2017. In my opinion, he has above average chance of being re-elected in 2017. But there are a number of imperatives that must take place. One, he has to deal with the issue of poor governance with respect to misuse and abuse of public resources. He has to be able to ensure that the country's security is up to speed, because it is a major weakness as far as the country is concerned. He has to make sure that there is accountability across the board, from a messenger in his office to any person who lives in this country, because we cannot afford any misuse of public resources. And above all, the various institutions in the land, and that includes the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, it must do its work without fear or favor. The Director of Public Prosecution must do his work without fear or favor. The Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya must do his work without fear or favor. The Auditor General, and I really want to caution him, let him make sure that the reports that come out of his office, they have been checked and rechecked, because we depend on that independent office called the Auditor General to give us reports that are above reproach. It is most important. We must also make sure that the controller of budget does her work. We must also make sure the 47 governors, they account for the public resources that are being allocated to them, because the purpose of those resources is to ensure that the services intended for the public are delivered. Above all, His Excellency the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, must make sure that this country is governized in such a way that we have national unity.
Does he stay with his deputy, KK? Because his deputy got to meet Obama. You know, there was that talk before whether he would or not. The case in the ICC is not finished.
I'm glad that you have raised that issue. See, Americans They are very good at one thing. They recognize institutions. He did not meet with Deputy President in his capacity as Ruto, William Ruto. He met him as a person occupying the second highest position in the Republic of Kenya. And more importantly, he met them because he recognized that the institutions of the country are very critical. America recognizes the role of the judiciary. America recognizes the role of the courts. America recognizes the role of the Attorney General. America recognizes the role of Congress, whether it's the House of Representatives or it's the Senate. Now, when you see an American president, they don't come here and listen to what some columnists will say. And we have some of them who have been swearing that an American president cannot meet with Honorable Deputy Prime Minister,
the President
of the Republic of Kenya. No, they don't do that.
No.
And as I told you, they know if they want anything done in this country that affects their geopolitical interest, and this is what we have to understand, it is only the presidency, which includes the deputy presidency, that can facilitate that sort of thing.
But let's admit, KK, when Johnny Carson, former Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, made those very undiplomatic comments more than 2 years ago when he said choices of consequences, I'm sure America now is eating a bit of humble pie.
See, the thing is this, let's face it, it's not only Johnny Carson. The diplomatic community in this country, without exception, they were hell-bent on the two individuals not winning the elections. Let's face it, that's a fact. All right? And maybe they were hoping against hope that their words would influence the electors of Kenya. But the Kenyans caught a bluff. And having caught a bluff, the Americans have what you call pragmatism. They are pragmatic. They are not dogmatic. They don't just go against, they don't hit their head against the wall. They don't do that. They sit down and say, let's look at the situation as it is. Because there's one thing that is very, very, very common in all of them. It is the self-interest of the Americans. You can go back to Theodore Roosevelt. You can go back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. You can go to Harry Truman. You can go to General Eisenhower. You can go to J.F. Kennedy. You can go to Lyndon Johnson. You can go to Nixon. You can go to Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford. You can go to Jimmy Carter. You can go to George W. Bush.
You forgot Reagan.
You can go to Reagan. You can go to George W. Bush. You can go to Clinton. Go to George Bush. And you can go to the man we are talking about, we love, called Barack Obama. All of them without exception, including George Washington, wherever he is sleeping. The American self-interest is what determines their decisions.
Absolutely. KK, what about the stereotype that Africa will always be what Africa will always be? And the example I give is that headline as Obama was leaving Washington, D.C. That headline.
Which said what?
It said, Obama heads to the hotbed of terror.
Yes. I think I'm very glad that we made a joke out of it as a country.
Yes.
You know, I've told you, I've traveled to many countries in the world. Many countries in the world. This country is a gem. I wish Kenyans can realize that. Yes, of course we must realize there is always those stereotypes. The media in the West, they will write and say whatever they want about this country. Because quite a number of them are suffering from what you can call delayed syndrome. They don't realize the gem in Africa. Yes, we have made great messes. We have mismanaged. We have had corruption. But the future of the world, from a resource point of view, it is in Africa. In Africa, in the generation of the likes of Jeff Koinange and many others, it's a different Africa from the Africa of Joseph Mobutu Sese Seko, Idi Amin, Bokassa. It's a very different Africa. And I can tell you, and that's why I can say Obama was spot on when he was focusing on the potential of the youth, when he was focusing on the issue of the women. He really hit the ball. He hit the nail on the head. Because the youth of this continent, of this country, it is no different from the youth in China, in Russia, in America, in Brazil, in any part of the world. They are as innovative, given the opportunity. They are as hungry. They are as aspiring as any other youth in the world. And they will run down those despots that are in many countries in Africa. There are few in Africa.
Yes.
Now, let's look at this country, for example. In this country today, what is the focus? Every minute you hear about Uhuru talk, he talks about the employment of the youth, the opportunities for the youth. Look at the innovativeness of our young people. Kenya, unless Kenyans don't know, Kenya, out of all the countries, not south of the Sahara as they talk about, this is the silicon country in the whole of Africa.
Silicon Savannah, they call it, KK.
This is it. And why is that? Because one thing that we must admit, Kenya has invested heavily in terms of education, on average above many countries in the whole of Africa. And now you can see the manifestation of that investment in this innovation that you see among our young people in this country.
So it's not just M-Pesa, KK?
No, not only M-Pesa. There are so many other innovations. Those innovations, they are in the incubation stages. And you'll be surprised what is going to happen. Now, with that, it means the youth of this country is not going to stand for the generation of my kind that is going to lie to them, that is going to point out to them that your problem is ethnicity. No! The problem of this country is two things only, Jeff. Enough production of goods and services, period. There's nothing else. And those young people, they are not interested in the delayed syndrome that is carried by our political leaderships. Not at all. And I say across the board, from the political divide. No.
Will Kenya be a different place 10, 15, 20 years from now, KK?
This country, this is the country of the future. Believe me, if you see how many multinationals that are investing in this country, I'll give you an example. China has made a determination that Kenya is going to be the headquarter of their African outreach. Now, if you think Chinese love you, you're out of your mind. Chinese are smart. American GE is led by very smart people. Microsoft is led by very smart people. Apple is led by very many people. Why do they think Kenya is the country? Is there something they are seeing we are not seeing? I can tell you, if you look at the location of this country, it has no competition. And Kenyans should be celebrating that God in his infinite wisdom, he sat down and created the 582,000 square kilometers of a wonderful country. Of a wonderful country, my brother.
So well put, KK. Yes. So well put. We are the flavor of the month right now.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that, KK, after the break. And also, we haven't talked about the AU. Is Africa changing as well? Is Africa changing? Obama thinks it is, or it should.
Yes.
I think we should talk about that, KK.
Absolutely.
This continent of 1 billion people on the move.
Yes.
Wow. KK, folks, calling it like he sees it. No holds barred. That's what the bench is all about on a Wednesday when it comes to politics. We shed everything else and call it like we see it. KK's Twitter handle is @Karanja Kabage. Mine is @Koinange Jeff. The hashtag we're using tonight, KK. Keep tweeting, keep talking, while we take a break. JKL will be back in a moment.